Welcome to Postscripts, and we're talking about World on Fire Season 2, Episode 1. We're here. It's a brand new season of World on Fire. I'm Fred Fegent, along with Matt Wilson. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Fred. How are you?
Good. And again, just as a little bit of a reset here, this series Season 2 of World on Fire, referred to as Series 2 in the United Kingdom, came out earlier this year. Just releasing now, which now is October of 2023. The first season of the show came out all the way back in the United States in 2020. It came out in 2019, actually, in the United Kingdom, so even earlier. So I say all that to say that there was a pretty substantial unintended gap between these two seasons, despite the fact that they're in story time. Not that much time has gone by.
No, we knew this gap was coming. We actually talked about it as we were progressing through season 1. We knew COVID caused a break in production. There'd be a real world timeline. We wondered what that would mean for some of the performers, especially the younger ones that would obviously age and grow up a little bit. And yes, we actually get a on-screen timestamp early in the episode, October 1940. So we are, in essence, really just picking up.
Like 6 months later?
No. 1940. Was it 39 or
I thought
40?
it was like summer of 39 or spring of 39, maybe? Maybe it's a year.
It's so long ago.
Yeah.
But in essence, picking up shortly after the events of the first season. And thinking back through, I will say this before we dive into the content here. Love to have you listening and following along, but join in with us. You can send us your thoughts and comments at postscript@witf.org. All the WTF social medias, you'll find us there as well. So if you are joining, especially because Season 2 rolling out in the United States and you're picking up with Season 2, maybe you haven't watched Season 1 in years. We do have a series of Postscript that does cover Season 1 of World on Fire. Go check that out. So to us, this is fresh in our minds because we've been doing this just through the last few weeks of real time. And so the transition from Season 1 to Season 2 was jarring. It's completely jarring, almost to the point where I felt like it was almost a different show.
I agree. It almost seemed like a different show that just happened to have some of the same characters.
Right. Yeah.
There's lots of unexplained changes.
Yeah, a lot of off-screen shenanigans as far now. So they had a couple ways they could pull this. So in the real world productions, obviously actors are busy; they don't want to sit around doing nothing. It's very reasonable that Helen Hunt and Sean Bean had other obligations, other available projects, opportunities they wanted to do. Maybe they just weren't available for this show 2 or 3 years later to begin Season 2. Besides learning, spoiler, that Douglas died in a bombing run there in Manchester, again off-screen. Besides learning that, there's no sign of Helen.
Well, that's
there's
the thing.
No sign of Webster.
At least they
Albert.
bothered to say.
Right. Yeah, at least they tried to close the loop there.
My favorite character in the whole dang series. But yeah,
So as far as Season
Webster,
1,
Nancy,
a lot of folks we kind of cared about and learned a lot about are just
MIA.
gone.
Yeah, just missing.
Just gone.
What the other thing, and so part of my one theory is because so much time had elapsed from in production that perhaps the approach here was just to, if you had not seen Season 1, we can just go right into this and you won't be completely lost, although I feel like you still would be somewhat lost.
When Harry drives up with Kasia in the car,
right? There's a whole story there.
Yeah. So I do think you have to watch Season 1, and I think that just puts you in a really awkward place coming into Season 2. Vernon also died off screen.
And by the way, and they made an even less of a deal about that.
No. A side comment about losing her fiance. Lois's side comment about losing her fiance. Yeah.
But I feel like they skipped an episode, and I feel like halfway through this episode, and we're not here to necessarily overly criticize or poke holes at this, but I feel like we were missing an episode.
So here's go ahead. Sorry.
No, well, I mean, if we ended with Kasia and Harry on the run,
right,
and then all of a sudden they're safe and sound in England.
Yeah, all kinds of.
Tom was somewhere in Spain. And then he's home.
He's home.
And Gregor's, he was in England.
We saw him in England, right?
And Jan obviously makes sense. He's as would be expected, being the youngest character in the show. He's probably the most noticeable who has aged.
Yeah, he's like a
since
foot taller now.
That's
I
right.
wondered if it would be the same actor. It is. It is the same actor, but yeah, he is notably different physically. That's fine.
But I forgot where I was going with
No.
that. But it's just I feel like the somewhat soft tension, but the tension that was building at the end of episode 7 with Cassia and Harry. How are they going to get out of this pickle? And it's just they're home.
So in literature and entertainment, there's a concept called the suspension of disbelief. And I think we're just being asked to accept that a lot of things have changed and just roll with it. Just pick up in this new story with a few characters and a few new characters.
Yeah, like
don't
shortbread.
worry about shortbread. Yeah. Don't worry about how Tom and Kasia magically got from somewhere in Poland back to England. In a span of a couple months or a couple weeks or whatever.
Done.
Don't worry about how Tom got home from Spain. He's just there.
He's
now.
there. All
Don't
right.
worry about how Gregor's is apparently some sort of airline mechanic.
He's
or
been
aircraft
redrafted.
mechanic, right. In the English Air
Yeah, and
Force
he's learned English.
He's learned some English. He knew some English in Dunkirk. He knew a little bit of English. So, but oh my goodness, just suspend your disbelief, my friend, and roll with what is now season 2. But we could talk about the old a lot, and we will. But let's talk about a little bit of the new as well.
Okay.
Lois is apparently an ambulance driver, and I was thinking about this at first. I was like, "This is weird," but I would think that during wartime, when you're in an active bombing scene, life as you know it ends. Right? You don't just work at a grocery store, or okay, grocery store is a bad example. You still obviously need to have food and everything, but entertainers and people whose jobs are probably not super important or relevant to daily life, I bet they are drafted or brought into roles like, I mean, you're an active bombing scene. There's ambulances all over the place, probably. So.
Well, and remember, Lois was going to various locations to perform for the troops, and so I mean, with a nearly newborn, she really can't do that.
Right.
She had to stay home. So yeah, but to play a role in the wartime effort, she's driving an ambulance now.
So yeah, I blinked at first, but then I kind of put it together and made some sense. Interesting episode for her. We'll get to the end of the episode in a second, but I did like how she continues to talk Harry through her perspective on all of this. Kind of rebukes Connie about, don't tell me how to grieve, right? I've lost so much. My dad, my fiance, my boyfriend in a way that I thought might be, she's been through a lot. She's dealing with a lot. And it's just Lois being Lois, I think.
We never.
She's a trooper.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, I'm not disputing that. But they got engaged, but we don't know if they ever got married, do we?
She used the term fiance, so I don't think they got married.
They never got married.
Yeah.
Well, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
She does meet Kasia.
Yeah, and we knew this awkward situation was coming.
Yeah.
This was really the main focal point at the beginning of the show, I guess. Like, let's bring Kasia home and throw everyone into the.
Actually, seems to feel a little bit bad for Kasia, knowing that both she, Kasia, and Harry are not where they exactly want to be. They're dealing with a lot. There's a moment, I think, Lois and Harry meet at a restaurant or cafe, and they have a brief conversation. She's very sympathetic to the whole thing, but knows Harry's leaving again to go out to northern Egypt, or northern Africa, which we'll get to in a second, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, Lois, the biggest point is the very end of the episode. She's serving as an ambulance driver.
Mm-hmm.
She comes to a bombing scene, goes in, helps escort some people out of the building. For reasons that were not quite clear to me, someone or something may have been left inside.
False teeth.
Was it false teeth? Okay.
Yes.
So she goes back in.
Would not leave without his teeth.
Right. Building collapses on her.
Yes.
And the last scene I believe we see is her on the ground bleeding, looking very bad.
Yes.
Now they've done tease death with us before with Tom on the beach, so we'll have to see what happens. But this would be a weird way to just write out one more character.
Right into the first episode of the new season.
Right. The drama of the scene didn't grab me. I'm skeptical. I don't know. But it wasn't set up in a way that, like, I don't know. Maybe just all the changes or my minor frustrations with the episode were too much. But by the end of the episode, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's really too bad that, I mean, I think we can assume, I mean, and maybe it will be explained in the next episode that where Nancy has gone to, but as you had pointed out, I don't know, maybe halfway through the season, like her role kind of evolved, or maybe, and this was the whole point, as almost as a narrator. And I feel like we were missing that.
Yeah, the use of newscast to explain events, the timeline, connect military actions back to the civil scene was helpful. It was interesting. Yeah, she is a presence that's missing, kind of connect the pieces and help us understand the bigger picture of what's going on.
Yeah, because this episode also introduced a few new characters, and I wasn't sure what to make of them.
Yeah, you want to talk about what the pilot's next?
Shortbread and
David and his wingman Shortbread. By the end of the episode, Shortbread's gone.
Shortbread's gone. I wrote down here, we hardly knew ye.
We hardly knew ye. I'm not sure what to make of David. We're not supposed to like him at this point. He's a little bit arrogant.
Yeah.
He ditches meeting to go hang out with girlfriends, asks his friends to cover for him.
Almost like Tom. A little.
Yeah, has some pictures of Tom in there. Sometimes in the writing world, you'll set up characters to change, right? It's the evolution. It's the hero's journey. So maybe he'll end up somewhere different down the road, but at least for now, he seems like kind of a jerk.
I agree. I really don't have anything to add. It took me a while to warm up to this line just because I was so eager to see where the characters we did know about, where they ended up, where they were and how they fared. That it just wasn't. I wasn't warming up to these individuals yet. I'm sure if you next episode will. But was happy to see your good buddy Sergeant Stan.
I don't actually know if he's a sergeant, but alliteration is fun, so he's become Sergeant Stan. So he's in Egypt. No, I keep saying Egypt. It's Northern Africa. Maybe it is.
I thought it was Egypt.
Okay. Robina knew at one point that Harry was going to Northern Africa, but I do think they're in Egypt. So Stan is serving as sort of the lead of a mixed English and Egyptian unit. Not sure exactly what they're doing. It's anti Italy, I guess. So Italy seems active in North Africa at this point. The Italians have joined the war officially. But the unit is a bomb disposal unit. They're doing like mine retrieval off of some roads.
That seemed like the most stressful part of the episode.
But we do get to meet Rajib, looking at my paper here, Rajib, Rajib. He seems like a really strong leader of the Egyptian unit. He leads by example. He wants his men to see how the work gets done. He doesn't want to ask them to do anything he wouldn't do, which is a great leadership mentality.
He makes that point.
Demonstrates how to do the bomb disposal, kind of how to do it right. Just cares about his guys. Certainly someone we'll see more of, I think, as the season goes on, given how much time they spent on him in episode 1. Not at all sure where that storyline's going, but I don't
know. I mean, Stan's there, so
is Harry going to end up there?
We know that. That's what I was going to say.
Right, we know he's going to Northern Africa, so yeah. They're laying that out for us, of course.
I feel like there's a little foreshadowing. Like the whole point that Stan is there is because we're going to see Harry's a reunion of Harry and Stan. So.
Yep. So they'll have fun in the sandstorms there. And I guess the last big thing to talk about, so what I do like, and they put a twist on this, so this is actually more interesting. I do like that they're showing us life in Germany as well. But instead of the Rossler family, that we were very sympathetic with, that seemed to be blatant victims of the fascist movement and the Nazi party, we get Marga, this young girl, and her family.
Right. And she's talking to her friend Greta.
Gerta. Who got this high school German coming back.
About Liebesborn?
Yeah, so let's talk about Liebesborn. So translates to Fount of Life.
Yeah.
This was a Himmler project. So you often hear Himmler is one of the bad guys of the Nazi. He absolutely was. This was about selective reproduction. This was finding people that reflected the ideal Aryan stature, the blonde hair, the physical features.
The like pure race.
Yes, the pure race. And she has embodied that mentality so visibly and so strongly from what we see even just episode 1. This program began, my understanding is, as encouraging people like that to have more kids, grew into forced kidnapping, child abuse, sexual assault, a lot of international issues as the Nazi movement and the German army moves into other countries. There's a lot of literature, movies, stories about this. Is a horrible program that I think this season may focus as much on as season 1 did of the eugenics program of the
with Hilda.
Right, with Hilda, yeah. A couple characters here. I'm sure we'll see Marga, of course, as the daughter. Gertha is her friend. But the family we meet is sympathetic in a way in that they're drinking the Kool-Aid, right? Far more so than the Rosslers.
Yeah, it seemed like they didn't want to endanger themselves, so we're going to go along with this. Because I think even the teacher had some...
the teacher had a stroke of conscience, tried to warn them about what this program meant for young girls, and the parents wanted nothing to do with it. They saw him as a threat. They called him a liberal. They threatened him. What if, the administration finds out that you don't have faith in these programs? What a horrible family unit to be part of. But what really makes it worse, and I think where I feel bad for Marga, all of them, because they're living in Fantasyland, but the very last scene of theirs in this episode, and again, classic for this show, we have a connection of one of the German bomber pilots that we saw in the airplane. Turns out to be the older brother of Marga. We saw a family photo again, so recurring themes. But as he walks into the house, the parents hug him, talk about how proud they are, how much honor he's bringing on the family. You're an example to your younger sister. And you see her and watch her facial expressions. She's listening and smiling, but then she becomes thoughtful. And I think she's almost recommitting herself to this program. Like, this is my way that I can hear my parents talk to me about how proud they are about me. And I just feel bad for all of them, especially her, because she's too young to know any better. She can't make her own decisions. There's a scene early where it's pure indoctrination. They're doing songs and small dance moves and the whole Heil Hitler salute thing. It's just, she has no chance, right? She's born into this, and it may turn out horrible for her. And we just have to kind of watch it play out.
So that will be a thread we'll be watching through the season.
So overall thoughts, I mean, what a difference a season makes. I tried to list the characters that we at least have not seen yet. I think we hit all of them. Douglas, Webster, Nancy, the Rosslers, Vernon. Albert, Eddie. I don't know if I would expect to see Eddie, but we haven't seen
We've seen his wife. But,
yes, Connie is still around. So just a lot of change. No efforts to recast characters. Sometimes you see that in shows. Game of Thrones did this at times. Not an uncommon thing. I guess the showrunners just decided it'd be either better or easier to go a different direction, write some characters out, introduce some new ones, and see where the new story kind of leads. And my last kind of just broad thought, and I shared a little bit about this sort of in our season 1 wrap-up. From a writing perspective, there's macro-level writing and there's sort of micro-level writing. And at times, I'm very frustrated at the macro level. I think some of the structural decisions, the pacing, the character decisions are interesting, let's say. I'm not a showrunner. These folks know what they're doing. But at the micro level, there's some really fantastic writing in this series. There's some great lines. There's some great moments. We didn't talk a lot about Robina in this episode, but she has a few good zingers.
She always does. She's turning into the Countess from Downton Abbey.
I was going to say, it is almost like the Dowager. But, there's a spark in this show where there's moments where it's just like, that line was just really thoughtful, really insightful, really, really funny, whatever. And that's what keeps drawing me back to the show. I will probably stay frustrated through season 2 unless the plot lines clean up a little bit. Change is hard. We'll get through it. But I'm enjoying the show. I do enjoy the writing, some of the scene crafting and the moments of conversation, the dialogue. Structurally, well, I'm willing to see where it goes.
Yeah, there is more of this war to live through and go through and understand the story. So we will do that. And and I'm glad Robina made it through from
Robina
one season
came back. Yeah, she's back. She's still there. Jan needs somebody because everybody else seems like they're leaving her. So what do we think? 6 episodes, season 2? Is that?
There are 6 episodes. Perhaps things will settle. I mean, the war is not going to settle down, but maybe a little more organization. This first episode, trying to get through so many different things at one time. Such high expectations, right? So maybe things will kind of settle down as far as plot lines go.
So we'll find out, and hopefully you'll find out with us. So thanks for being here today. Stay with us as we go through season 2. Join into the fun. We'd love to hear from you. Via email is great, postscript@WATF.org or ps@WATF.org. All the WATF social medias, you can find us there. If you want to watch along with us, or watch us, I guess, as we sort of walk along the series, you can find these on YouTube on the WATF Mosaic channel. All videos of Postscript, you see us, you see our colleagues here running through Miss Scarlet and the Duke. We have season 4 of All Creatures Great and Small coming up later this year, all sorts of good things. Stop by the Mosaic channel on YouTube for all that content and more. If you're having so much fun, and you should be, but if you are and you want to help us make more content like this, please visit WATF.org/mosaic. You'll find lots of information there, including ways you can support the show.
Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be along with you with episode 2 next time.